All right, welcome back to the Jeep Journal, the brake saga. I got it. I finally got it. Oh, it's big. It's really big. I will have to show a picture of it in a different video because my camera won't let me flip it around. But yeah, it's big. And my tip. When I was working with the manufacturer vendor on my setup, we were talking about the proportioning valve because I went ahead and pulled the ABS unit out. And looking at space, I thought that there was going to be enough to put the proportioning valve underneath. But that's not going to work. So I'm going to try it up on, when I'm looking at the Jeep, my right side. So it'll be closer to the fender well. That might allow me to have room to keep my air compressor in there. I still have to figure out if it'll mount, but it's worth a shot. So make sure the clearances work for everything, which is hard to do when you don't have the unit in front of you, but that's where we get a little specific in the engineering and come up with an idea. So yeah, pretty excited. It's big. I don't know if I've said that enough, but I'll show you a picture here now of how big it is. All right, so there it is. Mentioned I'd show you how big it is. So this supposedly is off of a Chevy, so that's nice and big for the master cylinder, and bolts right up to the hydro unit. High pressure in, high pressure out, return is my understanding. So one thing I learned while going through this is I've already got a PSC system in here for the power assisted driving. So I'm gonna come down here and show you what I'm talking about. So I've got this hydraulic ram that helps the steering with these big wheels and tires. Well, that means that I've already got this full aftermarket PSC system in here for the gearbox and for power steering pump, which is over here, right down there, that guy. And then I've got the reservoir. So the way it works, the big one here drops right into the power steering pump. The power steering pump has a hose that goes over to the steering box over there. The steering box has a return line that comes all the way around back into the little guy there. And then off of the steering box, off the side of it, it has the connections that go to the hydraulic ram. Well, the hydroboost needs to have the most pressure in the first shot. So the change is going to be, we're going to come from the power steering pump over and up into this. Then we're going to go from here down to the steering box, which is right down here. Then the return that's coming out of the steering box, the smaller line I showed going to the reservoir, we're going to tap this into it with a T because it's low pressure, and we're going to have both of these feed back into the reservoir. So it's not a complicated design. It took me a little bit to figure it out, but it won't be that hard to redo the lines because, at least with this kit, one thing that's really nice is they send the lines not with an adapter on one end and the instructions on how to cut this to size and then put the adapters on it. So I'll have multiples of these adapters with a clamp that will essentially make it like that for a high pressure and low pressure. So I've got plenty of hose to fabricate this and make it work. And I'll show some of those steps as I go along. So yeah, keep tuned for the next part of the saga where I have an update on mounting the unit into the Jeep and figuring out if that proportioning valve is going to work on a side or what I've got to do there. Cheers.